Hello, everyone. We are ready to get started. I just want to thank all of you for joining today, wherever you are in the world. We're so happy to have you. My name is Jennifer Morse with MadQualityCommander Software, and I am so delighted to welcome our guest today, Mattias Sander, owner and founder of Improvementsoft, a consulting firm based in Sweden. And Mattias is a technical writer, software engineer. He's worked with a number of companies worldwide that use Flare to help with content migration strategies, project architecture, and optimizing the quality of Flare projects, style sheet development, automation, and more. And speaking of optimizing the quality of your content and automation, today Mattias is going to walk us through how we can do this easily with his MadQuality plugin that he's developed. Now, this plugin does a lot of things, including the ability to automatically validate your topics to ensure they comply with your company's style guide and information model, the ability to calculate a quality score KPI to follow your content, how it develops and scales over time. It includes sets of proposed rules for using CSS-based syntax and more. So it's a powerhouse of a plugin. And in a time when many of us, we're doing more with fewer resources, this update to the MadQuality plugin is certainly a welcomed helper. So as always, we have a lot to cover today. And before I turn everything over to Mattias, who's going to show us all these fun things and show us the plugin, I just want to cover two quick items of business that we like to before we begin. This is going to be recorded, so everybody will get a copy of the presentation or a link to the presentation when we're done today. Also, there is a question panel in the GoToWebinar console. We would encourage you all to drop in questions there. We'll do our best to get to as many as we can live at the end of the session today, but whatever we don't get to live, we'll do our best to follow up with everybody personally with a question and answer document as appropriate. So with that, Mattias, welcome once again. It's nice to have you here, nice to see you. I know you have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jen, for that very kind introduction. So my name is Mattias Sander, and I'm here to tell you today about the MadQuality plugin and how you can use it to, to improve your life or tech writing anyway. So, and thank you, by the way, for taking the time out of your day to listen to this webinar. I appreciate it, and I hope that, and I have a feeling actually that you won't be disappointed. So let's get to this. What is the MadQuality plugin? Well, it's a Flare plugin, and it's a tool that automates and sort of validates the quality of your topics and snippets. And it helps you find potential problems with both structure and language of your topics. So sorry about the airplane in the background. I guess it's going to go away soon. But how can this plugin help me? Well, it makes editing faster and easier, and it supports sort of helping you to have consistent editing in a team by helping the team comply with the editing standards, and it helps you spot quality problems early before they become problems. And well, I mean, if you're a lone writer like I am, I'm a freelance consultant, and I sort of do most of the writing on my own. I don't have an editor, right? So you can use the plugin as sort of a sparring partner or a friend. Well, it's a bit sad though, but yeah, you could do that. So I mean, editing content, it's hard work, right? You do it, it takes time, and that's switching between the different editing modes, language, structure, sort of the formal editing. It takes a lot of sort of brain power in a way, especially the switching between context, and the plugin here can help you with both of these things. So I actually demoed the plugin earlier today, so it's evening over here. So and they have a help system with over 400,000 topics, and after looking at the demo, they estimated that they could 60 to 70% of all the things that turn up in their editing process could be caught early by the MadQuality plugin. So they were sort of very excited about the tool because it would let them get all the nitpicky stuff out of the way so that they can focus on the more important aspects of the editing. But let's sort of dive into it, right? Let's look at a few structural things that the plugin can help you find. So one thing would be line breaks in headings. And why wouldn't you want that? Well, it looks weird in the PDF and the HTML output, but in some cases it can also make sort of the footer and the header of your PDFs look a bit off. Same goes for paragraphs wrapped in paragraphs. I mean, this happens to me all the time. I'm working in Flare and then I'm pasting things from others, other tools, other documents, and I just make a mess of things, right? I need to catch all of this because I can't really see it, So it's good to have a tool to help support this. And then I went, what about elements with local styling? Well, generally separating the layout from the content is a good idea, and local styling usually isn't allowed by the sort of the style guide that companies have. And you can use the plugin to find any instance of that and help sort of self-edit the content that you're writing. And these rules are not, written in stone. You can customize them as you wish. You can put in your own rules. You can just remove the ones that you don't want. The plugin actually comes sort of preloaded with a lot of rules, mainly inspired by the Microsoft Manual of Style. But so what else? What other kind of rules can you set up? Well, you could find divs that don't have a style class. But why would that be a problem? Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but usually you put in a div to sort of highlight that something is a note or some other form of sort of box of content, right? And you need to put in the style class. And if you forget that, the output might look a bit weird. Hard-coded formatting. Well, that's sort of on the same level as styling local elements, right? Making a decision whether or not something should be bold, italic, or underlined. That's something you do in the CSS generally. Another thing that the plugin can detect is empty tags, so empty paragraphs or empty span tags, things like that just sort of clutter up your project and doesn't really add any value. Lists with one item. So let's say you have a numbered list, right, with just a single item, right? Number 1. Well, that doesn't make much sense generally. So you can use the plugin to sort of detect that too. But let's, enough with the slides for a bit, and let's dive into Flare and see what this thing looks like. All right. So here I have a topic. It looks nice, right? There is a problem, right? And it's fairly easy to spot when you look at it. And there's a line break in the heading here that might cause problems, right? So once you've installed the MadQuality plugin, it ends up on the ribbon on a separate tab, and all of the rules that you have set up are individual buttons here. And I've set up a set of rules specifically for the webinar here, just so that we can see in an easy way how it works. So let me scan this topic using the rules that I've set up, and let's see what happens. So it pops up with, there are 2 broken rules. One is that a header has a line break. So that's good. And it tells me that there's a duplicate word. Okay, so there's a sentence that contains a duplicate word. Oh, interesting. Okay, so let me double click on this one here. And that highlights the heading so that I easily can go up and delete that line break to fix that. I'm going to save the topic. And then what about the duplicate word? Well, it's over here. So I'm going to remove one of them. So I guess my lorem ipsum generator isn't working as well as I thought it did. So that's good to know. I'm going to save this. I'm going to switch back to the results window, close it down because I'm done fixing the problems, and I'm going to scan this one again. And it tells me, yeah, it's fine. No rules are broken. Also tells me I'm awesome. So that's good. I feel good about myself, even though I had a topic with 2 problems. Let's dive into another example. What about paragraphs wrapped in paragraphs? I told you that this happens to me all the time. And it's not necessarily a problem, but the styling might look off in the output. So here I want to scan the topic. Tells me that indeed there's a paragraph wrapped in a paragraph. So I double click on this one, and I get the sort of right click to unbind one of them. And then I have fixed the problem in this topic. So let's close it down. And just for the sake of it, scan it again. Oh yeah, this is good. No rules were broken. So these are 2 examples of things you can do, but let's move on. I have a few more examples, not a lot, but a few. So here's an interesting one, right? There's a problem with this topic, and you probably can spot it right away, but I have a hard time doing it. So I'm gonna sort of scan it, right? And it says that, oh, there is a span with a local style, right? It has a font size CSS attribute. And, I don't want that. So I'm going to double click and unbind this tag just to make sure that the topic is nice and proper. Close it down, scan it again. Oh, no rules were broken. I mean, this is such a sort of a satisfying process. I can do this all day, but maybe that's just me. Let's have another look at an example. Here we have a paragraph wrapped in a div, and the div indeed does not have a style class. It's just a sort of a clean and pure div, and I don't want that either. But let's see what the plugin tells me is wrong. Well, it does tell me that there's a div tag without a class, so I have the option to sort of either delete this or unbind it or put a class. In this case, I'm going to unbind the tag and oh, sorry. As you guessed, when I scan this one again, there will be no problems with the topic. So let's do 3 more examples before we move on to some more interesting rules. This one here, there's something wrong with it. I'm not going to guess what. I'm just going to click the button because I trust that. Oh, there's a hard-coded formatting, a bold tag. All right, good. So I double-click the sort of the entry in the results window, and now I'm going to go back and unbind this tag to fix the problem. Switch back to the window, and I'm done fixing problems for now. And then I'm going to scan it again. Yes, no rules were broken. Here's another example. Here's a topic with, what looks like a long line break, but it's not. It's an empty paragraph, right? So I don't want this. But let's scan the topic. Oh yeah, there's an empty tag, so it finds it, and you can go ahead and sort of delete it, right? Problem solved. So that's pretty nice, because sometimes when you import sort of content from other tools or systems, maybe Word or FrameMaker or Markdown, you might end up with sort of empty paragraph values, and this is a good way to sort of find those and remove them. But let's look at, I think this might be the most interesting example of the structural stuff. And this is a list with only one item, right? Of course, when you look at a topic like this, I mean, you see it straight away what the problem is. But usually you would use the plugin to scan all of the topics in a folder, or maybe even the entire project, or even sort of all of the files that are linked to a table of contents file. You can do that too. So, but let's scan this one. Oh yeah. It says that the list has only one item. Are you sure that this needs to be a list? Well, I'm not really sure, but I'm going to go ahead and unbind this. And of course, Flare magically turns that into a paragraph, which is awesome, and save the topic, and it's now fixed. So these are a few examples of structural rules that you can set up so that the plugin can help you find those potential problems before they become a problem once you've built or even published your help. But let's move back to the slide deck. So these were the structural problems, but you can also find language problems. And this is great. I mean, especially for someone like me, I mean, I speak English as a second language, right? So there are like things that I don't know and understand. So it would be good if I could sort of codify the knowledge here and put that into a tool that I can use to check my writing. It's also a great way to learn, right? So for example, here, I have a sort of a rule that says, don't use discontinue, use stop instead. So maybe I thought discontinue was the most wonderful word in the world, but this tool is going to sort of teach me to use stop instead, if that's in your style guide. Again, you can set up the rules any way you want. You can put in any words you want and any type of suggestions. So what about acronyms? Well, you can set up rules for acronyms too. For example, the MS Manual style doesn't recommend that you have acronyms in headings. So you can definitely set up a rule for that. You can even set up a rule to catch acronyms that are not explained in a topic, which is also nice. So if you just put in an acronym that, without a definition, this plugin is going to tell you, or at least in some cases, it's going to tell you that you forgot to put it in. You can, of course, add exceptions to the rule for acronyms that are sort of common knowledge. I don't know, KPI is a key performance indicator. Maybe everyone knows that. So that way you can put that into the plugin as an exception to the rule. You can also catch sort of places where you've written a long sentence or someone else has, right? I'm certainly guilty of this. I write super long sentences and I feel this is such a beautiful and elegant sentence and it's going to help the user, but 40 words, that's too much. This would help me catch that. Also, duplicate words. I often write I'm not sure why, but I do. So when I developed this plugin, I went back to some content I had written a few years back, and I did a scan, and oh boy, did I find a lot of the in that one. Also, some other language issues as well, I gotta admit, but still. So I kind of wish I had this when I worked full-time as a writer. You can even detect certain instances of passive voice, like the presentation was given by Mattias Sander. It doesn't cover everything, and it does give you some false positives, so it's a judgment call, but it certainly helps you spot any potential problems here. So let's go back to Flare and have a look at these language rules, because I think this is sort of the most fun part, I think. Structural rules are great, but language is definitely more fun, or is it? So here I have a topic, install the MadQuality plugin. So, and the first sort of numbered item there says the latest installer is downloaded from, Improvementsoft.com. That looks like passive voice to me, but let's see what the plugin tells us. Well, it says it's downloaded. It looks like passive voice. Okay, all right. So let me close this and instead say download the latest installer. There are probably other problems with this topic. When you have an audience of technical writers, someone's going to spot something. That's for sure. So that's great, but usually I don't have that kind of support. So I sort of rely on the plugin. But anyways, let's scan this one again. Oh yeah, it's happy now. So that's good. What about acronyms? We talked about those. So here I have another topic, installing the MQP. To install the MQP, step 1, 2, 3, okay. So yeah, but it's pretty clear. I'm happy with it, but let's, just scan it for the sake of it. So let's do that. Oh, it tells me that MQP doesn't have a definition. Okay, that's weird. And avoid acronyms in headings and titles. Okay, so I need to fix these issues. And as you can see here, sort of the descriptions for the rules that you put in can include hyperlinks. In this case, there's a link to the Microsoft manual style so that you can read more about the rule and the reasons behind it and whether or not it actually does apply in the specific case that you have here. But let's not do that right now, but instead sort of fix the problems, right? So I'm going to change MQP to MadQuality plugin. All right, yeah, you saw that one coming, I'm sure. To install the MQP, and I could spell it out as well, but I'm going to try something different. I'm going to say MadQuality plugin. I'm going to make sure to spell it right because I'm live. Okay, save it, and then scan it again. Oh yeah, and now it's happy. So these are a few sort of items that you can find that. Oh wait, but there's more. Let's talk about the long sentences. Forgot that one. So here's another topic. Installing the MadQuality plugin. I guess you can see the theme now of the presentation here. So let's scan this one. And it does find there's a sentence here with more than 30 words. Okay, that's not good. So let's see, but oh yeah, I see there is an easy fix. I just need to split this one in two. And close down the window here and then scan it again. And now it is happy. Now, usually it's not that easy, right? But when you have a lorem ipsum text, you can get away with stuff. Let's do get into the sort of the word stuff. So here's the topic. Many readers are not aware that the brain will automatically ignore. Okay, it looks good. Let's scan this one. There's a duplicate word. The. Okay, I do this all the time. Okay, so I need to fix that. Remove one of them. Save it, and it's done. So this is sort of how easy it is to find and fix problems, and it's in a way it's very satisfying. But let's look at word use, because I think this is sort of the most useful use case for the plugin, to prefer certain words over other words. So here's a topic. It's called disable overclocking. To discontinue overclocking, select the overclocking checkbox. Sorry. Okay, so this looks good to me, but let's see what happens. Oh, it says consider using stop instead of discontinue, but that's fair. Okay, to stop overclocking. Good. I fixed that one. Can close the window and just make sure you know it's good. Yeah, it's good. I think there might be another problem in this topic, but let's get back to that later. And let's switch back to the presentation. So we covered all of these cases, and you can certainly set up more of them, especially for the word use. You can put in all sorts of rules that you like, or maybe that you need, right? But you can do more. I mean, there's structure, language. You can even validate the file names, right? So if you prefer to use, for example, file names without spaces, because you know that the files might be sort of presented on different systems, or well, you just don't like spaces in file names because that sometimes links are messed up. Maybe you don't want mixed case file names because you know that's the way you roll. You can set up rules like this as well. And let's go back to Flare real quick to see what that looks like. So here I have a file. It's called spaces in file names. That's good, so that I can find my way. And this has a space, but it shouldn't. Okay, so let's see what happens when we scan it here. Oh, it says no spaces in file names. Well, actually, there is a space in the file name, so I need to probably change the description of the rule. But anyways, file names must not contain a space. Okay, so I should go back and fix this. And I know the topic is here because I just opened it, so I'm gonna remove the space at the start. All right, good. So now it's renamed and I can scan it again and it's good. Excellent. So that's pretty cool. And it gets better. So, you know, hang on. You can set up different rules for different files. And what I mean by that is that you can set up a rule that, you know, applies to file, for example, all files that start with an R underscore, because, you know, in your system, these are reference topics. And as such, they must include a div with class reference. Or if a file contains a div with class reference, that file name must start with R underscore. So this is the type of rules that you can set up. Just have a quick look at what that is in Flare. So, all right, let's open this one. So this is a reference topic. It has a div with style class reference. But the file name does not start with R underscore. So let's see if it detects this one, and it does, right? So I've set up a rule for this. The reference file names must start with R underscore. And then I can go ahead and fix that and, you know, continue with my day. Just get that quickly out of the way. I mean, I don't have to pass this on to the editor who then says, hey, you know, Mattias, you need to rename your files. Okay, well, you can get that out of the way now. You can save sort of the editor from a lot of pain and suffering, and yourself too, right? Because you write something, you send it to the editor, they get back to you. There's this whole sort of cycle of editing and fixing bugs and frustration. So you can get away with, you know, getting away with sort of covering, I don't know, 50% of the small problems can be detected by this plugin. Of course, it's not a substitute for, you know, human thought. But it's going to help you save a lot of time and frustration. But, you know, let's have a look at another one here. I mentioned this with, you know, reference topics and file names. So this here is a reference topic, but it doesn't have the div with class reference. So you can set up a rule for that too. And it's going to detect that. You know, it's no surprise at this point that it will, but it's an example of something you can set up to really sort of, you know, help you run a tight ship with your content here. So, but with that said, let's get back to the sort of the slide here, and we've covered this. Oh, but there's more, right? So let's say you wanted to find all topics that are still in review based on the file tag, or maybe based on a condition tag, or whatever sort of tag you like, or that you're using. So you can set up a rule to sort of detect all HTML element with this file tag. Now, I know that in Flare, there are different ways to do this. You can probably use the file, what's its name, the file explorer to list topics based on file tags. But this is sort of a quick one-button way, for example, to check that, you know, you're getting ready to publish the content, but, you know, you want to make sure that all the tags are set to done rather than in review. And this is a good sort of sanity check for that. So let's go back to Flare and have a look. So here's a topic that I have. I'm getting ready. This topic's still in review, it says, but actually I'm getting ready to publish it. So I want to, make sure the file tags are okay. Let's check that they are. So it's not, they're not, because it still says in review. You can scan it, and it says no rules are broken. That's great, because I probably put that rule in a different rule set. Let's try this one. Here it is. Whew. All right. So this topic is in review, so it find it. So if you scan a folder, you could see, get a quick list of all the topics that are still in review, or based on any other file tag that you set up. So that's another little nifty feature. And let's move on here. So the plugin does come with a lot of rules that are sort of loosely based on the Microsoft Manual of Style. And of course, Microsoft doesn't support or maintain or endorse this project at all. But the rules are there, and they're available. They're available even if you don't want to buy the plugin or get the plugin. You can download them from GitHub anyway, from my repository. And next up, I'm going to implement the Google Documentation Style Guide, and also make that available as a free rule set that you can use with the plugin. So those are some sort of examples of rule sets that the plugin comes with. But you can also set up your own rules. Maybe you have a style guide already, or a style guide group, something like that. You can definitely get together and set up a few rules, and then you can adjust as you go along. As you find quality issues, you can create a new rule, and it's just very sort of convenient and flexible for you to do that. So what about validating more than one file? We haven't really done that, or I haven't shown that. I've just clicked one file at a time. But you can actually, validate all of the topics in a folder, or all of the topics linked from a table of contents file, or even all topics in a project. Of course, if you have a very large project, that's going to take some time. So, go get a coffee. And there's also a button, and this is my favorite one, validate a random topic. Sometimes it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock. You've just finished some very important work. You don't feel like taking on a new project, but you still have a few more hours to go. You can just click that button, validate a random topic. It's going to find a topic in your project and show you what's wrong with it, right? So that you can go ahead and fix it. But let's go into Flare and have a look at this. So I'm actually going to roll back all of the changes that I made so that we can scan the folder and get it all sort of at once. So I'm undoing my checkout to get here, and I'm going to have a bit of patience here, and then I'm going to scan. I'm going to say go to the MadQuality plugin tab, go to the Validate Folder button, and pick the MadCap webinar rule set that I set up, and I'm going to pick the MadCap webinar folder, and it's going to scan that. It still tells me I'm awesome, which is lovely. Doesn't feel that way always. And here you get a list of all the problems in all the topics. And when you double click one of these items, it's going to open up that topic and select the sort of the text that you're that's sort of the problem. So let's do this one. Yeah, this is a duplicate word that I fixed before. It's back, right? So that's how you use that window. And you can scan a folder or the project, the table of contents. But let's validate a random topic. Let's see what we get. So validate random topic, and let's pick the MadCap webinar rule set. Oh, it found something. It found a file with a paragraph wrapped in a paragraph. So this is a nice way to sort of divide and conquer. I have processed a few projects using the plugin, and usually you come up with somewhere between 5,000 and 50,000 sort of rule violations, and that can be a bit overwhelming. So I usually just start off, going through it, one topic at a time, picking at random, just to see what I have, not to get overwhelmed. So, and also if you do scan the whole project, you can actually export the results to a CSV file so that you can check back on it later to sort of go through that, maybe as a team, to fix the issues one by one. All right. So that's that. And let's go back to the slide here. And yeah, the question you've all been waiting for, right? Or asking maybe, how do I set up my own rules? Well, the easiest thing to do is to modify the existing rules that you have. And for instructions how to do that, you can go to docs.improvementsoft.com for the full documentation. But let's look at a few examples. Let's say we want to set up a word choice rule for checkbox versus checkbox. You know, as a non-native speaker, I'm not sure about the difference, so it's a good rule to have. But let's see what that looks like in Flare. So there are a few buttons up here, like edit rules. I can edit the rules, and this will open up the rule set in Excel, which is a really convenient way to sort of edit the rules. And like a good TV chef, I have prepared a rule here. It's called the checkbox rule. I got to enable it, so I just pick true here. I give it a description, and I put in a message. And let me zoom in here. So the message says, don't say %S, say %T, and that's going to be clear how that works in a minute. The type of the rule, there are essentially sort of two flavors of rules. Either you want to report something that you see, or you want to make sure that a topic, for example, has something like a heading 1. And if it doesn't, please tell me. But in this case, we want to sort of find the word in question and report it. And the context here is actually the CSS context that you want to check. So if you want to check all paragraphs, you put in a P. If you also want to check list items, you say comma LI, and so on. So this is just CSS. So if you're a bit familiar with CSS, it's super easy. But if you're not, or you don't care about it as much, you can actually put in a hard-coded context here. It's called text, and it's going to find or scan all paragraphs, all list items without paragraph items, all table cells without paragraph items. So you can just put in text and be sure that it's going to scan most things, but not headers, of course. The next thing here is the function, right? So we want to find a word. So let's set this to word and ignore case. That means that we don't care if it's uppercase, lowercase, or whatever. In this case, we don't care. And then we put in the parameters here. And this is where we put in the word, right? So I want to find, whenever someone has written checkbox, I want to suggest checkbox. I can also give it a score, right? So if I feel that this is super important, I can give it a high score, like 99. All of the other rules have 1, but this is very important. Of course, there's one down there that has 30, but yeah, most of them have 1. So file filters, right? What's that? Well, it allows you to sort of scan different files depending on their extension or even the file name. You can use wildcards. So a good example here, so you want to, like the rule I mentioned before, where you want to assure that a topic or assert that a topic has a heading 1. That doesn't necessarily apply to snippets. So in that case, you would remove snippets from the file filter, right? In this case, I want to include snippets as well. So this is good. I have saved the file, and I'm going to go ahead and close it and go back to Flare. And actually, there was a topic before. It's called word choice. Where is that? Word use. So discontinue. Yeah, we fixed that before. Let's scan it again. So in this, it finds 2 problems, right? Consider using stop instead of discontinue, and don't say checkbox, say checkbox. And in the message here, we put in sort of %S and %T, and actually that sort of picks the words that you put in and adds them to the message for convenience, right? So we can go ahead and fix this. We can fix discontinue. We can say stop, and we can add a space here. Open the rules again, close, and check it again. Yeah, no rules were broken. Awesome. So we did a very good job on this. What about sort of structural rules, right? We could set up a rule just as an example for catching span tags and span tags, and that happens sometimes. And sort of, let's see here, I have prepared this one as well. So down here on line 15, that's the rules called span wrapped in span. We're going to enable that. And well, the message is fine, span wrapped in span. And the CSS context that you put in for this is span that has a span. Well, that makes perfect sense, to me at least. Sorry. And the function here, you don't have to put in anything. And you want to scan topics and snippets, right? So we save this, close it down, And then we need an example with a span and a span. And I'm not sure if I have one. So let's go ahead and create one. I'm not sure how these appear, but let's make a really artificial example by going into the code editor real quick here. So actually, let's take this entire span here and put it into the span here. You know, it's perfectly valid XML, but it might not be what you're looking for or expecting. And let's scan it again. So, and it says that's a span wrapped in a span, right? And you get a chance to fix this. So that's sort of how hard, difficult, or easy it is to set up your own rules. In addition to, you know, I mentioned the plugin comes with a lot of rules. So let's have a quick look at that, just, you know, to get a sense of it all. And let's see, here are all the rules, and you can sort of enable and disable them as you see fit. The default rules are mostly enabled. You would just open up Excel and just pick and choose what rules you want to use. You know, if you don't want to use a rule, you don't have to. No one's forcing you. It's easy to set up your own rules. That's sort of how you do it. All right, so back to the slide here. So we did this. We set up a rule for checkbox versus checkbox and span wrapped in span. That was fairly easy, right? So another question, can I run this from the command line? You know, I want to run this as part of my build. Well, the short answer is yes, and it's going to validate all of the files in a folder and create a CSV file that you can open in Excel. So let's give this a quick try, and I'm going to go up to the desktop here, and I have prepared a bat file which has the commands that I need to run. So I'm going to run this. It's going to scan the project that we just, and I forgot to close Excel, but lovely that it told me instead of crashing. So that's great. Let's try this again. I'm going to scan the project and scan the files. And if you notice the text here, it says that it found 16 broken rules with an average score per file of 3, and the exit code is 3. So you could configure this if you're into that sort of thing to sort of, you know, pass or break your build. So if the quality score is low, you can say, no, we're not going to publish because we need to fix some quality issues here. So that's sort of an interesting approach that you can take. And let's see. So how do I make the most out of the plugin, right? You know, use the default rules and modify them to fit your in-house style guide, and share those rules with the team so that each writer can self-edit their topics, you know, and save a lot of time, you know, downstream. So fixing the quality up front is a really, really, really good thing to do. And so where can I get this thing? Well, you go to Improvementsoft, you can sign up and download the installer. And once installed, you have a fully functional 14-day trial. So let's go to the page just to show you what it looks like. Or maybe not, because I have my email open for whatever reason. Let me open Firefox and just go to the site. Improvementsoft.com. And by the way, this page is actually built using Flare too, so you can certainly use it to build sort of corporate websites in addition to documentation sites. So up in the menu, you can go to plugins and the MadQuality plugin. It has some text to describe it, a short demo video, but now you're here, so you don't need that. And you can put in your email address here, and you will get a link, and the installer is going to work for 14 days. And if you would like to purchase it after that, well, Improvementsoft built using Flare. It's going to be $19 per month for individuals, $59 for teams up to 7 people. So if you're more than 3 people, you're going to save money on that. And actually $99 for teams with more than 7 people. So that's a sort of a significant discount. The plugin is continuously updated with new free rule sets, and I'm going to release the Google Developer Documentation rules, or some of them, very soon. So, I mean, depending on how much time you save, right? You know, the cost for this is surely justifiable. But you know, I'm partial, so I'm not gonna you know say anything. But why get the MadQuality plugin? You know, it can help you improve the content quality without spending extra time. It's going to free up your editing resources. You know, it's cheap, it's easy to set up, it's easy to use, and it's fun. And when I say it's fun, I'm thinking about that validate random topic button. I just can't get enough of that. I don't know why. Anyways, if you have questions, If you need support, just feel free to email me at Mattias@improvementsoft.com. And we do have, or I have, a few other plugins. The free Kaizen plugin. It's a collection of tools to speed up your work in Flare. It has thousands of users at this point. There's the Markdown plugin to import and export Markdown. It's popular with the DevOps teams. Now Flare does support Markdown import, so if that's all you need, you don't need the plugin in the latest version of Flare. The Automator plugin allows you to integrate Flare with third-party apps to help companies, support workflows, getting content from one system into another to Flare in a sort of fairly seamless way. I offer a few services: workflow automation, custom portals, automating content migration to Flare as well, if you're interested in that sort of thing. And finally, I just want to promote the Madcap Flare user group on Slack. I think Nita Beck created this, and it's such a fantastic forum to connect with other Flare users. There's over 1,300 users at this point, and everyone's really friendly and helpful, and it's such a fantastic community. So if you need an invitation to this or want it, you can just email me at Mattias@improvementsoft.com, and I'll send the link to you. But before moving on to Q&A, let's, I think our dear sponsor has a few words to say.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much, Mattias. That was great. I really appreciate you walking through. We do have a couple questions to get to, but just want to remind our listeners that you can upgrade to the latest version of Flare and receive a discount if you haven't already done so, if you're not on the current version. So if you have any questions about this, upgrade options, upgrade paths, please contact sales@madcapsoftware.com. Everybody's going to get a copy of this deck, so these links will be clickable, or email your account rep, or generic sales@madcapsoftware.com. They're happy to answer any questions about upgrade options and how you can save. So just wanted to throw that out. And the other thing, wanted to remind everyone before we get to just a couple of questions here, is Mad World, our user conference, is taking place October 3rd through the 6th in Austin. We're going to have 2 ways to attend this year. It's going to be interesting. I'm quite excited about the in-person option. Excited to see faces again personally, but it's going to be in Austin, Texas. And there's also an online option. So for whatever reason, if you're not comfortable traveling or you're not able to, we still would love to have you. We will be offering an online option, and you can take a look at our website to see all of the schedules, the sessions, all that fun stuff. Some things are changing, so check back. But hopefully you can join us if you haven't already registered. We are all very much looking forward to having you there. So, Mattias, a couple questions have come in. You want to take a few?
Yeah, fantastic. Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so one question that came up is there an option to automatically rescan so that we don't have to shut down the window and reopen every time a change is made, or is that something that's in the works?
That is in the works, and that will be in the next release, actually. Okay. So yes, fantastic. That's a very good idea, by the way. So great idea, great question. Great question, great idea.
He's a mind reader. Another great question came in. If I want to check if my H1 contains the variable title collected from the topic properties, is that possible? If I want to check if my H1 contains the variable title collected from the topic properties, is that possible?
Oh, that's interesting. So what would that look like? Would that be inserting a variable here? Is that what we're
perhaps
thinking about? Yeah. I'm not sure, but generally you can detect sort of any element that appears in another element. So I would say, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. Another question came in. It sounds like the Google style guide has got some attention, and a couple questions. So I'll just sort of summarize here. When do you anticipate the release to include the Google style rules for the plugin?
I would say within 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Very good. And a couple questions came in. Can you please repeat how we can get the trial of the plugin if we want to test it in our environment?
Yes, definitely. So you go to the website, my company website, Improvementsoft.com, and you go to the plugins menu, you pick the, or actually, here's a button down here, Automate Editing with MadQuality plugin for Flare. It's good that I know my website. You click download, and that will take you to the page with the plugin. Scroll down a bit and put in your email here and click download. And you can just install it, and it will work for 14 days from when you install it, right? And if you want a license, you can go back to the same page and buy that license.
Great. Another question came in about the install. Can you please review how the install works? Is it simply an executable that runs and we would open up Flare, and then does it just show up in the plugin or in the toolbar, excuse me?
Yeah.
Or is there anything else that we have to do in order to get it enabled once it's downloaded?
That's a great question, Jen. Yes, you would download the installer. You would get that in a link in an email, and then you would close down Flare, run the installer. And then when you open Flare, you need to go, the installer will tell you this too, so you don't have to remember it, but you have to go to the File menu, the Options button at the bottom, and down here it says Plugins, and here you can enable or disable, you need to enable it if you want to use it, or disable it if you don't want to do that anymore. But that's the way you do it, and then it appears in Flare as a ribbon up here. That's sort of the whole process. And there's a button up here, so whenever there's an update, you can hover over this and get sort of the quick release notes, and you can click the button to get the latest version, and that will bring you a new installer.
Great. Another question came in. Are you available by phone and email if we have questions about using this while we're testing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely email me. I mean, I respond fairly quickly, and if need be, we can set up a Google meeting or a phone call. I'm definitely available for that. Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's great, Mattias. Thank you so much for running through all this, and thanks everybody for joining and for your great questions. I hope that everybody found this useful, and hopefully you'll have some time to give this a download, give it a try, and get in touch with Mattias if there's any questions about how this might help you on a day-to-day basis. So thanks everybody for joining, and so thank you, Mattias, also for your time today. We very much appreciate it. I know it's late in the day where you are.
Thank you.
We appreciate it so much. So again, for everybody, we will be recording this. We'll send out a link to the recording as soon as it's done rendering. And do get in touch with Mattias if there are any questions about the plugin, testing it out, purchasing, all those fun things. So Mattias, thanks so much. We so appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for joining. And we hope to see you on another webinar. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care.